The world's truly legendary victories do not rely on a massive physical army. They build psychological terrors that shatter an enemy commander's sanity completely. When we think of ancient warfare, we imagine clashing swords and heavy armor. But true tactical ruthlessness belongs to the masterminds of psychological warfare. These clever military leaders manipulated what the enemy heard, felt, and perceived on landscapes. Today we are counting down 10 of history's cruelest psychological traps. They completely broke the mental resolve of invading forces before fights started. We will look closely at exactly how they orchestrated these terrifying illusions. Before we dive in, please like and subscribe to Stickman Chronicles right now. Hitting that big subscribe button helps us bring you history videos every week. Do not forget to turn on the notification bell so you never miss a daily upload. Let's start our global countdown with number 10, which takes us to ancient Europe. Number 10 is the terrifying use of severed heads by the ancient Celtic tribes. The situation unfolded when disciplined Roman legions marched into the dense northern forests. The Roman soldiers prided themselves on clean military order and structural superiority. Instead of launching a direct frontal assault, the Celts engaged in stealthy guerrilla ambush raids. They decapitated captured Roman scouts and nailed their heads directly to front trees. When a main Roman army marched through, they found their friends staring back at them. The Celts would also dip these severed heads in oil to preserve their rotting expressions. The psychological shock of walking through a screaming forest completely shattered Roman morale. The terrified legionnaires began imagining hidden monsters waiting behind every single dark tree shadow. This mental torture forced seasoned commanders to retreat before a major battle even commenced. Next up at number 9 is the horrifying auditory trap of the Aztec death whistle. The invading Spanish conquistadors were marching deep into the unfamiliar Mexican jungle terrain. Suddenly, the silent jungle canopy would erupt with a sound like thousands of screaming corpses. The Aztec warriors used small clay whistles shaped like human skulls to generate this audio. The sound design mimicked the literal sound of human agony echoing through a deep valley. To the highly superstitious Spanish soldiers, it felt like the ground was opening up to swallow them. The sheer terrifying volume of hundreds of these whistles playing together created instant panic. Men froze in their tracks, unable to process the unnatural screaming coming from the trees. The Aztecs used this audio distortion to completely mask their actual troop numbers and positions. By the time the physical ambush began, the enemy was already mentally paralyzed by pure terror. Number 8 takes us to the ancient Middle East with the horrifying trap of Pelusium. The Persian king Cambyses II wanted to conquer the heavily fortified cities of Egypt. He knew the Egyptian soldiers held deep religious reverence for cats and the goddess Badet. Instead of building massive siege towers, the Persian king came up with a cruel psychological trap. He ordered his frontline soldiers to capture hundreds of live cats from local villages. The Persian troops pinned these live cats directly to their heavy battle shields before marching. They also positioned herds of sacred animals at the very front of their attacking vanguard lines. The Egyptian archers on the city walls looked down and completely froze in total, absolute horror. They knew that harming a sacred animal meant instant, eternal damnation according to their religion. The Egyptians refused to shoot their arrows, allowing the Persians to easily storm the gates. This brilliant manipulation of religious devotion secured a massive empire without losing a single soldier. Number 7, we look at the deceptive psychological trap of the Mongol empty campfire. The fast-moving cavalry armies of Genghis Khan often found themselves outnumbered on foreign steppes. Instead of retreating, his commanders would set up massive fake encampments across the dark horizon. Every single Mongol soldier was strictly ordered to light 5 separate campfires at night. To the enemy scouts watching from distant mountain ridges, the horizon looked completely set ablaze. It appeared as though a massive, unstoppable army of millions had arrived overnight to encircle them. The scouts would run back to their king screaming about the endless sea of enemy fires. The Mongol horsemen would then ride in circular patterns to raise massive dust clouds during daylight. This continuous optical distortion made their real numbers completely impossible for the enemy to calculate. Entire armies would abandon their strong defensive positions and flee in absolute panic during the night. The Mongols would then easily hunt them down from behind as they ran away scattered. Number 6 takes us to ancient Greece with the nightmarish sound design of the Carthaginian drums. The Roman Republic was fighting a brutal war against the brilliant General Hannibal Barca. Before the physical fighting started, Hannibal would position massive war drums in deep mountain caves. These drums would beat in a slow, steady rhythmic pattern that simulated a giant approaching heartbeat. The natural cave acoustics amplified the low-frequency sound vibrations across the entire battlefield landscape. The Roman soldiers could literally feel the deep thumping vibrating inside their own chests and bones. This clever audio engineering induced involuntary physical anxiety and sweating among the young recruits. It created an invisible, suffocating atmosphere of dread that lasted for hours before sunrise. The soldiers spent the night awake, trembling in the dark from the mysterious, booming echo. By the time the morning battle began, the Romans were completely exhausted and mentally broken. We have reached the middle position for today, countdown of history's cruelest psychological warfare traps. Before we reveal the top 5, please like this video and subscribe to Stickman Chronicles. Your daily support helps us spend more time researching these incredible historical survival stories. Leave a comment right below about which psychological trick has shocked you the most so far. Now let us jump straight to number 5 on our list of terrifying tactical masterminds. Number 5 is the brutal psychological trap of the Vlad, the Impaler forest of the dead. The massive Ottoman Empire army was marching proudly to conquer the territory of Wallachia. Vlad knew his small defense force stood absolutely no chance against the Sultan's elite Janissary units. He retreated deep into his territory, leaving behind a trap that would echo through history. When the Ottoman vanguard reached the capital, they found a clearing stretching for miles. Vlad had impaled over 20,000 captured Ottoman prisoners on tall wooden stakes across the field. The rotting bodies formed a massive, silent forest of corpses swaying gently in the wind. The Sultan's seasoned warriors, who had fought in dozens of bloody campaigns, completely broke down crying. The overwhelming sight and smell of their executed comrades shattered the entire army's mental resolve instantly. The Ottoman Sultan turned his massive invasion force around and retreated to Istanbul in total defeat. Vlad won the entire campaign without his main army ever swinging a single sword in battle. Moving to number 4, we look at the clever psychological misdirection of the fake retreat trap. The Norman Duke William the Conqueror was facing a solid wall of Saxon shields at Hastings. The Saxon shield wall was completely unbreakable and stood strong against multiple heavy cavalry charges. William ordered his elite cavalry units to launch a fierce attack and then panic on purpose. The horsemen turned around screaming and fled down the hill, pretending their lines had broken. The Saxon soldiers broke their disciplined formation and rushed down the hill to chase them. This was exactly what William wanted, because the retreat was a calculated psychological illusion. The fleeing Norman cavalry suddenly turned around and surrounded the disorganized Saxon foot soldiers easily. By exploiting the enemy's sudden rush of adrenaline and greed, William broke the shield wall completely. The Saxon king was killed in the chaos, proving that a fake surrender is deadlier than force. Number 3 takes us to the ancient Roman legions and their use of psychological decapitation. During the conquest of Judea, the Roman general Titus encountered incredibly fierce rebel resistance. The rebels were fighting with religious zeal and refused to surrender their fortified walls. Titus ordered his engineers to construct hundreds of wooden crosses directly outside the city gates. Every single day, the Romans would crucify captured rebel soldiers in full view of the walls. They would force the prisoners to scream out messages of despair to their friends watching above. The constant sight of their brothers dying slowly under the hot sun eroded the defenders' resolve. It turned the city inside into a psychological pressure cooker filled with arguments and fear. The rebels began fighting among themselves over whether they should surrender to the Roman lines. Titus used this internal mental breakdown to easily breach the walls with minimal structural resistance. Number 2 takes us to ancient China with the legendary psychological illusion of the empty fort. The tactical mastermind Zhuge Liang found himself trapped in a small fort with only a few soldiers. A massive enemy army of over 150,000 troops was marching to destroy him. Instead of locking the heavy gates, he ordered his men to throw them completely wide open. He had his few soldiers dress as simple peasants and calmly sweep the dust outside the entrance. Zhuge Liang then sat on top of the fort walls playing a peaceful melody on his wooden lute. The enemy general arrived and froze completely when he saw the totally defenseless wide open fort. He knew Zhuge Liang was an absolute genius who never made reckless moves or mistakes on campaigns. He assumed the open gates were a psychological trap designed to lure his men into a deadly ambush. The terrified general ordered his massive army to retreat, saving Zhuge Liang without a fight. Finally, we reach number 1 on our list, which takes us to the ancient fields of Greece. Number 1 is the cruel, nightmarish trap of the Spartan red cloaks and silent marching. Most ancient armies would march into battle screaming, shouting, and banging weapons to build adrenaline. The elite Spartans did the exact opposite by marching forward in total absolute dead silence. They wore bright crimson-red cloaks, specifically designed to hide the sight of any bleeding wounds. The only sound the enemy could hear was the rhythmic playing of small wooden flutes in unison. This silent, synchronized march projected a terrifying aura of robotic, emotionless perfection toward the enemy. It signaled to the opposing soldiers that the Spartans were not humans, but executioners coming to work. The psychological weight of that dead silence caused entire frontline units to drop their weapons and run. The enemy armies would collapse out of pure mental panic before the first Spartan spear even touched them. These gripping narratives prove that human resourcefulness can shatter the strongest chains on Earth completely. Please make sure to like this video and subscribe to Stickman Chronicles right now. See you tomorrow as we upload high-quality history videos every single day without fail.